All right, so we're going to start today with something a little different. We'll be kind of taking a tour or having a lesson in reactionary fear mongering and how people can get sort of sucked into reactionary thinking and these reactionary ideas. And we're going to start today. We actually have two clips that we're going to look at, two different segments. In the first clip, we're going to look at a piece of an interview that right-wing host Glenn Beck recently did with a guy named James Lindsey. And I don't want to say too much about the clip to start with, other than you really can identify serious analogies to the sort of febrile screeds of authoritarians and fascists over the history of the 20th century. There's a lot of Mussolini in what I'm going to play for you here. And what you are going to see are essentially unfounded conspiracy theories presented in a particular way to make you afraid and to make you want to say, we have to stop this. And the way to stop this is by discriminating against others, taking away the rights of others, etc. And you're going to see Glenn Beck conducting the interview here. James Lindsey is being interviewed. And let's just jump right in. And then we're going to talk about a lot of different things here.
They know. I have this really bizarre belief, not to get too theoretical out of that. I don't believe that we ever actually had a marketplace of ideas. I don't think it actually arrived. I think we ended up getting an aristocracy of ideas through these expert class, whether it's big government, whether it's, universities.
Began in the progressive era.
Yeah, I think
so
that
the first part here is even the information you are given, it's all controlled by elites, individuals, and it's not true. And they want to apply this to COVID right now, but they want to apply it to a lot of other things. And of course, there's always a kernel of truth, which is, well, we should all think about how we came to believe the things we believe. We should think critically. But these are the very people who write off that type of education, critical thinking, epistemology, philosophy, media literacy, as left-wing indoctrination. So they're telling you, you've been tricked, but they also don't want you to have the tools to avoid being tricked.
Had an aristocracy of ideas. And what happened is that the internet has unleashed the flame of the Enlightenment a second time.
Right.
And of course, again, he's right that the internet has made it difficult for people to figure out what's real and what's not. But the disinformation that is being spread on the internet in the COVID era is disproportionately right-wing nonsense. There's also left-wing nonsense on the internet as well. We've talked about, natural news and anti-vax movements that predate COVID, which did have elements on the left, but they're describing what they've done.
I'm telling you, these people are frauds and they're criminals and they're jokes, and it's coming for them. They are going to lose all of their power. They're going to be exposed for crimes the likes of which we've never seen in human history.
You are 100% right. This, I believe, is the biggest crime in all of human history.
And of course, what are they talking about, right? They are stimulating fear. It's not even really clear. Like, what are you saying is the crime? That people post stuff to the internet that we don't think is true? Like, what exactly are you talking about? And this is typical. They use grandiose language. Trump does it too. It's the biggest political crime we've ever seen. And it's not super clear what it is, but you see them being alarmist and it makes others alarmist.
5 of the biggest crimes in human history mixed into one.
Yeah. And when it all hits, if they don't have us all in cages,
right,
they're in trouble.
They're in a lot of trouble.
So now that's, again, it's going to get much worse, and they might enslave us and on and on. But what are they even talking about?
Trouble. And if they do have us all in cages, we're in a lot of trouble because, I saw this, I don't know if you saw this clip from the World Economic Forum. One of the elites said, we did this study, and the good news is the elites trust the other elites more than ever before.
Yeah.
But the others don't trust us anywhere on earth.
Yeah.
You better have a rock solid prison everywhere.
Yeah.
Because there will be a revolution.
Yeah.
What on earth is he talking about? And I really want to encourage everybody to read the article, The Reactionary Trap by Seth Moskowitz. We're going to have Seth on the show maybe in April to talk about it. He outlines, just Google Seth Moskowitz, The Reactionary Trap. We're also going to link to it on the YouTube channel. He explains exactly how people fall into this reactionary type thinking. And he specifically talks about James Lindsey in the article, actually. And when we say reactionary, what we're talking about is someone with extreme opposition to dramatic social or political change. And of course, sometimes there's reasons to oppose dramatic social or political change. But what distinguishes reactionaries, as Seth writes in the article, is number one, they become so preoccupied with who or what they are against that the foundation of their own politics throws out all reason and first principles. And we've seen this now for years. And as I've told you before, you have these right-wingers who state certain principles, and as soon as the principles conflict with what the outcomes are or are inconvenient to the outcomes they want, they abandon their principles. We've seen this when it comes to business regulation. We've seen this with my body, my choice, all these different things. They have principles they state are their principles. And as soon as those principles would go counter to what they want as the preconceived, predetermined outcome, then they abandon the principles. So that's check. And then number two, reactionaries vastly inflate the threat of whatever they oppose. We might just be against something for some kind of, sensible reason, and we just don't like it, but nothing catastrophic is going to happen. But no, they have to inflate the threat and say it will be a catastrophe if X happens. And what that does is it drives disproportionate responses. If you're told, oh, yeah, if schools require a COVID vaccine, next thing you know, we'll all be in cages. That drives a disproportionate response when it's like, actually, there have been vaccine requirements for 100 years and it doesn't escalate. There's no slippery slope. And we'll talk about that next. And there's a lot of, we've seen a lot of that in history, like the anti-communist movement of the 20th century. Remember, I'm not a socialist, I'm not a communist, but I accurately see that there was no threat, right? When we go to the McCarthy hearings, et cetera. It's threat inflation. This is going to end everything. It's going to end life as we know it. And really a masterclass in fascistic, authoritarian fear-mongering here from Glenn Beck and James Lindsey. And we've got a similar thing in the next segment when it comes to Dave Rubin. So let's talk about that next. One of our sponsors is Blinkist, who's been supporting the David Pakman Show longer than any other sponsor. Blinkist is the app that lets you listen to or read an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. Blinkist is the way to absorb those books you can't make time for. Blinkist takes top nonfiction titles, pulls out the book's key takeaways and insights, and gives it to you in the form of a text or audio explainer that you can consume in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, now you actually do have time to learn about all the things you've been wanting to tackle. On the Blinkist app, I just listened to This Is Your Mind on Plants by the great Michael Pollan. Super interesting, the history of caffeine and so many other things. Blinkist has you covered on podcasts too. Blinkist takes long episodes of popular podcasts and distills them into audio you can listen to in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, you can become knowledgeable about so many different things. You can have conversations with people about more topics. Blinkist makes you more well-rounded. Try Blinkist for free and get 25% off a subscription. Go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. The link is down below.